y'all, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. So today we're going to be discussing social work theories. I'll be giving you guys a brief description of 6 social work theories. Social work theories are grounded in research to inform how they implement clinical practice in a methodological manner. Social work theories are important because they aid social workers in exploring the origin of certain behaviors, address client problems, and implement effective solutions with evidence-based approaches. They are especially important because social workers need to avoid personal assumptions or biases from interfering with effective treatment plans. Always remember, if a certain therapeutic approach doesn't work, social workers can examine the reason and use what they've learned to apply a different approach. Theory number 1, systems theory. Systems theory assumes that human behavior is the result of a larger system comprised of several elements, including the relationships between these elements, as well as external factors like their environment. It's just like that example people always give of 2 sons living with the alcoholic father. One son grows up and never touches alcohol because he watched his father. The other son grows up to be an alcoholic because he watched his father. Both of their behaviors were shaped by their environment. This is what systems theory is basically saying. Of course, it does factor in all other elements outside of just the drinking, but you guys get the gist of what I'm saying. Theory number 2, social learning theory. Social learning theory was developed in the 1970s by Albert Bandura. I've done an entire video on this theory, so I won't cover it here. The link is up here for that video. Theory number 3, psychosocial development theory. Psychosocial development theory was created by Erik Erikson and argues humans struggle with specific conflicts throughout various stages of their life. The first conflict is dealt with in infancy, more specifically from the time you're born till around 18 months, 1.5 years old. This conflict is trust versus mistrust. This was arguably one of the most important stages of a child's life because it shapes how they see the world and their overall personality. The most important element of this conflict is feeding the baby. When the baby is hungry, they have to trust that their caretaker will feed them. Otherwise, mistrust is born. The second conflict happens in early childhood, more specifically from around age 1.5 to 2 or 3. This conflict is autonomy versus shame or doubt. During this conflict, the focus is on developing a greater sense of self-control. The next conflict takes place in preschool age, ages 3 to 5. This conflict is initiative versus guilt. This is where you assert power and control over the world by directing play and social interaction. So this is the stage when children are going out playing on their own. They're engaging other kids, seeing how that dynamic works. The next conflict takes place in school age, more specifically ages 6 through 11. This conflict is industry versus inferiority. At this stage, school and social interaction play an important role. At this time, they're spending more time with their friends at school than they are at home with their parents. So that is a very important time for developing social skills. The next conflict takes place in adolescence, more specifically ages 12 to 18. This conflict is identity versus role confusion. At this stage, you are beginning to explore your independence and develop a sense of self, so finding out who you are. The next conflict takes place in young adulthood, more specifically ages 19 to 40. This conflict is intimacy versus isolation. A lot of us right here, right now, including me. Major conflicts at this stage of life centers around forming intimate and loving relationships with others. So, how is your romantic life going? That's a big deal in this stage. Now we've reached the conflict in middle adulthood, ages 40 to 65. Trying to tell y'all, some golden years right here. This conflict is generativity versus stagnation. So during this stage, adults are striving to create and nurture things that will outlast them. So children, developing and helping communities, things that people will remember you for, things that will surpass your time here on earth. And the last conflict that we deal with in maturity, ages 65 until we go on to the other side, meaning we dead, is ego versus despair. At this stage, you're asking yourself, have I led a meaningful life? Have I fulfilled everything that I wanted to in this life? Because, you know, at that time, people start feeling like it's near the end, you know, it's about to be over for you. As social workers, when we're working with clients, we want to consider what stage of conflict our clients might be in. That will kind of assist you in getting to know what the clients need. Psychosocial development theory suggests that if humans effectively navigate these conflicts at each stage of life, they can develop a healthy ego. It's important to note that each stage correlates with the emotional stage, which could also have tension with the developmental stage. Our fourth theory is psychodynamic theory. This theory was introduced by Freud at the turn of the 20th century and popularized by Carl Jung, Melanie Klein, and Anna Freud. Psychodynamic theory argues that our personalities develop because of various internal forces. Freud wrote that our personalities are largely shaped during our early childhood, and our personality consists of three main parts. Part 1, ID or impulse. 2, ego or decision making. And 3, superego or conscious. Psychodynamic theory also prioritizes a person's unconscious thought process as the root of their behaviors. Social workers may use psychodynamic theory to help clients examine the underlying causes of certain behaviors, often considering the client's childhood to explain why they act a certain way. Social workers can use different types of therapies based on this theory, including transference and dream analysis. The fifth theory is transpersonal theory. Transpersonal theory approaches humans with a holistic philosophy, considering things like spirituality, the relationship between the body, mind, and consciousness. Psychologists usually don't consider this theory to be scientific, but therapists or mental health professionals integrate elements of transpersonal theory in their practice. They might use meditation, mindfulness practices, or hypnotherapy on their patients. The sixth and last theory is rational choice theory. Rational choice theory says that people make decisions and carry out actions based on their own rational thought processes, especially if those decisions ultimately benefit the individual. This theory directly opposes some other clinical theories that suggest people make decisions based on unconscious thought processes. Social workers can use this theory to determine why clients made certain decisions and how they thought those decisions would benefit them. You guys let me know in the comments below if you have any specific questions on any of the theories, and I'll be happy to answer. That's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in.